Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your daily dose of zombies news from the game and its community here on COD Zombies HQ. Thank you so much for tuning in today because we've got an exciting one for you. From major leaks to a perk in the game getting permanently buffed, let's kick things right off with our first story of the day. Treyarch once again released a new zombies patch for Cold War. This is the third day in a row that they've actually released a zombies patch, so that's awesome. And the changes in this one are actually pretty major. The first change is something that I didn't know you could do and is absolutely hilarious, where Treyarch says that they've closed an exploit that allowed the player to capture mimics disguised as props. So instead of running close to a prop that you know is a mimic and just throwing your essence collector, once that prop reveals itself to be a mimic, I guess people were just throwing the essence collectors at props that they knew were mimics and just instantly capturing them. Treyarch has said they've fixed that. The next one is a very important change to anybody that's been trying to do the ending boss fight on Firebase Z and/or is trying to do a speed run of the Firebase Z Easter egg, where before, if the ending boss received too much damage when it was already pretty low health, there would be a severe lag in the game where the final boss just wouldn't go down. He'd just stay alive at 0 health for around 30 seconds. I know that this has affected a bunch of big names in this community like Mr. Raffle Waffles and Smart Guy trying to complete speedruns, but now Treyarch has said they've fixed that by saying they've addressed an issue where the Ordo would not die if it took too much damage in one hit. So hopefully that shouldn't be a frustrating issue for speedrunners in the future. Next up, and I don't really remember the last time we saw this, but Treyarch actually decided to majorly buff a perk in the zombies mode. And if anything, this is the perk that they 100% needed to buff, as even after its introduction, it is still one of the weaker perks in the game, and that is Tombstone Soda. One of the major complaints of Tombstone is that once you enter your shadow form and revive yourself, because you'll have no armor and likely no Juggernaut, the zombies that initially surrounded you to take you down would pretty much instantly down you once you revived yourself once again. Well, Treyarch has sought to fix this issue by buffing Tombstone by adding an enemy knockback when the player revives themselves after coming back from shadow form. So now when you revive yourself in the shadow form, all the enemies around you will be pushed down to the ground, knocked back for a few seconds to give you the ability to get out of dodge as quickly as you can, run away from that area to try to reclaim your perks and armor rather than just pretty much insta-downing like it would do before. So a big buff to a perk. I like that Treyarch is kind of looking inwards at content they've already released and saying, hey, this isn't good enough for players, it's obviously not working as we intended, let's add another effect to the perk to kind of bring it more in line. Another thing they did do is noticing players using the Tombstone perk to get inside of areas they weren't supposed to, such as using it to get into Sergey's room here in the spawn area of Firebase Z. Well, of course, they're looking to change that, where they said they've addressed an issue with the Tombstone Soda where the player could get into a zone that was not already purchased and also not normally accessible. So hopefully, while that's going to cut down on some intentional glitches, this actually may prevent some unintentional ones too, where you somehow get knocked into areas where you're not supposed to be. So overall, really good changes today by Treyarch, still looking for them to address critical hit damage for all of the assault rifles and SMGs that are still broken since the Firebase Z update. Okay, so now moving on to our second story of the day, which was initially spurred on, and you might see a lot of people talking about this, by a Charlie Intel article with the title Rumor Black Ops Cold War to get an Outbreak open world style zombies mode, with the leaker describing it as an open world style zombies mode that would be set already made fireteam maps from multiplayer, and that it would be a PvE mode, so you wouldn't be fighting other players in this game mode, but rather it would still be co-op versus zombies, just like the original mode. So I've got a lot to say about this. The first thing is, this is actually not really new information. If you guys remember, back in early mid-December of 2020, there's rumors that this exact mode called Outbreak would be releasing into the game with Season 1. There was already some leaked information that some people in the community had, that there would be a mode called Outbreak, that it would be a large, more open-scale zombies experience set on a Fireteam map. So initially, we expected that this exact game mode would be releasing with Season 1. Instead, we got Jingle Hells and Crank. Whether this adds to the legitimacy of this new leak, or it kind of detracts from it because this information was already speculated about and already out there prior to this person's post, is kind of up for you to decide here. But it seems to me, in my own personal opinion, that this leak is actually legitimate. Not only because of the contents of the leak, because we've heard about this ringing in our ears for months now, despite only now kind of bubbling to the surface in the consciousness of the greater zombies community, but because the concept of this new open world style zombies mode set on Fireteam maps would match perfectly with the teasers Treyarch have released themselves about zombies content coming within Season 2 in Cold War. Remember, back on 115 Day, Treyarch ended their extended blog post with this message. Before we go, we'll leave you with this. What we've talked about today is just a glimpse of what's planned for zombies in 2021. Here's the kicker. If you think you know what to expect in Season 2, think again. Well, what would our expectations be? Just kind of more zombies maps, a simple new zombies mode? No. What would break from our expectations would be exactly what's already been leaked about this new mode, where Treyarch is hinting here that we're going to be getting something that we haven't seen before. The quote-unquote Outbreak mode fits the bill perfectly here. Now, in terms of what this new mode could actually consist of, there was back in the middle of December of 2020 some kind of basic descriptions of running around a wide open Fireteam map in order to close a bunch of new Dark Aether portals that have opened up in the environment, which sounds a little bit too similar to the Onslaught mode, which is played on the normal multiplayer maps with a very similar premise to what may be Outbreak mode. So I think it's safe to say, guys, take your possible excitement about the possibility of a huge open world zombies map mode with a little bit of grain of salt for now, because the Onslaught mode, which is described very similar to this new Outbreak mode, is kind of a disappointment. It's not that interesting, it's not that fun. Obviously, we'd hope that this new Outbreak mode would be a little bit more complex, add a little bit more interesting elements than the Onslaught mode does, but with them both being based around what is essentially pre-made multiplayer maps with a very similar objective, I'm gonna stay cautiously optimistic about this whole thing as of now. And I'd love to know how you feel about the possibility of this new mode down in the comments. But this trend keeps rolling on to our third story of the day, guys, where a new Easter egg was discovered in classic Treyarch style, not in the new map Firebase Z, but in the launch map Die Maschine, where Reddit user Robin Manor 34 recognized that the numbers on Samantha Maxis's ID card match the numbers on the vault from the television series Lost. If you guys didn't know, Lost was a massive TV show which aired from 2004 to 2010, with that number combination used to unlock a major plot device in that series. So obviously a developer at Treyarch is a fan and decided to include a little nod to it in the loading screen to Die Maschine. Next up, if you've been tuned in to the last 2 episodes of the Zombies News Update, if you haven't, go back and rewatch them to get all caught up. You might have been pretty impressed with the under 7-second final boss fight that Reddit users Skid In achieved in Firebase Z. Well, that time for the final boss fight has not only been beaten, but it's been shattered. This one was posted up by Icy, who with his squad mate managed to take down that final boss in under 5.5 seconds, with barely over 3 seconds of time when they were actually trying to damage that final boss. Now, of course, there is some differences between the 2 clips. This one has 2 players able to damage the boss, where the prior clip was a solo endeavor. But even with those differences considered, this is still a crazy time, and even though I think the boss's health scales based on the amount of players you actually have in game, I'd be really interested to know, using this strat, if you can get all 4 players in a game with that setup. I wonder how much even more quickly you can take down this final boss. But guys, that wraps up the news today. I want to thank you so much for watching. Hey, if you did enjoy the video, why not leave a thumbs up on it? Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. I really do suspect, with the possibility of Season 2 Zombies content links bubbling to the surface, that we'll be getting some actual official information on content coming in Season 2 very, very soon. But guys, I want to thank you again for watching, and I'll see you with another Zombies news video tomorrow. Peace.